Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another Reverse 1999 reaction. Today we have 1987 Cosmic Overture as requested by Nolmart in the comments of the last video. And that's about all I've really got on this one. There were actually a few songs that Nolmart wanted me to get to, but obviously due to time I can only do one at a time. So I'm going to be starting with this one that was at the top of the list. And if any of you want me to get to more of those songs from that list, just request them again down in the comments below. And I will of course do my best to get to those. But without further ado, let's just start this song and see what it has in store, shall we? Let's go! Ooh. A beautiful art.
Space.
Ooh, and plot.
Is it really beyond our reach? We can still save this project.
Wait, is this like
All
a
we need
whole
to do is
video
send
and
a
not a
monitor
song?
into space to collect data as the storm arrives.
Into space? So you mean you want me to become an astronaut?
Are you ever going to tell her the real
This feels more
consequences of
plot
the
than
storm?
it does song. I might have listened to
If
the wrong
this
one.
works out, then I guarantee you'll arrive home safe and sound.
Hold on. Yeah, this seems mostly like plot. I'm gonna see if I can find another video real quick. Okay, I was watching like a PV, not the EP, so that makes sense. I didn't realize there was, you know, a different upload. But now we can hear the song. Kind of liking where it's starting here. It's got that blend of like kind of pseudo-futurism. That space age concept that we had between like the 60s and 80s. It's kind of what it feels like it's leaning into. That's an interesting release. It just kind of settled in. I thought it was going to be like a full build-up and an explosion of sorts, but it's a lot more relaxed than I expected. Oh man. This is a different sort of energy for a space exploration theme. Oh, that's definitely different. Oh, that's cool. It's very similar to some things I've heard that are space related, but I don't think I've ever heard a main theme go for this specific approach. This changes my perception of what they were going to be doing with the concept of space entirely here. That's really neat. So hearing where that theme went definitely made me go from, oh, this is going to be a big, huge exploration of space to, oh, 1987. It's Soyuz. Like, it's a little bit smaller scale, but I assume that that's the historical parallel they're going for. And if you're wondering why I know about that, it's because space is one of my many special interests in the TISM world. But at the same time, that definitely makes this tone much more sensible. But at first I thought it was going to be a lot larger and it was going to scale into something more cinematic, more like Interstellar or 2001: A Space Odyssey, if you want to get like more technical with the historical balance. So what makes me go, oh, that's what they're doing for this song. And that also matches the tone of the song better too. That time period, like I said, it was kind of giving me that vibe of like pseudo-futurism, that gap of time where things were definitely a little bit more 80s by the time they got there. Clearly 1987 was a clue for that, but just the exploration of space was still relatively new, and they weren't entirely sure what to make of that in sound. So there was a lot of futuristic elements elements, like having the synths in there and how they were approaching all of that with those like sawtooths and everything. Something a little bit more gritty, but definitely had it had a bite to it, I suppose, but also not so aggressive and confusing because it's space. It's expansive. There's plenty of room out there, and it's nothing that's necessarily immediately a threat. So in tone, this song does that very well. It's calming. It's methodic. It's futuristic in its own way, but at the same time, I was definitely expecting something a little bit more intense and a little bit more of the scale of space as we know it now. When the song first started, obviously I wouldn't have known where it was going to be going and what tone they were going to end up at, but now in hindsight with the title and the parallel potentially of Soyuz with that whole thing in 87, that totally makes sense, and it feels a little bit more personal too. Obviously the Soviet parallel helped with that too, the imagery of that being on screen. I was like, with like the Russian speaking from the prior Incorrect video, that all tracked, so I was like, okay, must be Soyuz. But again, that makes it personal. That makes it a lot more small crew minded and more explorative, but while also just not being sure of what's out there. It feels like for this song and probably for the video that I skipped the rest of, this is probably something more direct to do with the storyline, but is drawing parallels from that real life exploration, having this space station out there and not being sure exactly what the future of space exploration holds. So you have to personify that in the music, and I think they did that very, very well for this one. Again, I love the inclusion of the sawtooth in there. That was super common around this time period, so like that works out really nice. They've always done really good thematically accurate, time accurate pieces, and it just really, really fits for this one. It sounds like something right before video games changed the music scene of what future would sound like, because that's kind of what happened. Obviously, like with the NES releasing in 85, that was definitely the beginning of it, but it hadn't quite taken a full hold yet. So especially for stuff like this, that sound was still kind of not synonymous with the future yet. But then as video games started to show up more and the sound of pop music started to change alongside it, video game music was very influential in that field, by the way. The square waves utilized for chip tunes and everything kind of changed how people perceive music and how they wanted to utilize it for the futuring of pop music, and trying to just change things up a little bit. It broadened the horizon of the musical scope as a whole worldwide. Not exactly overnight, but pretty close to it. In hindsight, it was an insanely influential thing. Like, people don't really think about it, but there was so much influence with video games to modern music, and especially now that we have like dubstep and EDM and like trance and everything was all showing up like right around that same time period. So you get that evolution, that natural going, hey, we can make stuff with electronics, let's do that, and starting to add that to other things. Video games was one of the core places that started, where they realized they could use these sorts of signals to create technical sounds, and it was just a thing that they did after that. So this song in tone is really cool to me, and more than just what it is for the story here, but because it nailed that gap of time where things were still moving forward musically, but also as far as space went, they weren't entirely sure what that was going to sound like yet. We weren't sure of the scale of it. Like I said, I was kind of expecting it to be a little bit more grandiose, I suppose, a lot more expansive, more cinematic. That's the tone we've come to know of it in modern times, because we know a lot more about space than they did. So having that very futuristic approach to sound was something a lot of people wanted to utilize to showcase what that was, and this song did that very well. I don't know how accurate I am with the parallel to Soyuz and all that. It would totally make sense, like I said earlier, but at the same time, I'm mostly focused on how cool it is that they nailed that little time period, that little gap of maybe 3 or 4 years, 5 if you're pushing it, where they weren't entirely sure what the future, what space should sound like, what that would be. And I think they nailed that here. It sounds super nostalgic. The mixing is honestly perfect. The synths they were using were just so well balanced all the way through. It sounds like somebody pulled this song out of an obscure B movie from the early 80s, and this is what we got. So this is a really good piece of music. I love this, and this is why I love Reverse 1999's music in general, because they're so good at just exploring the time period that they're trying to write for. Instead of trying to sound like they're from that period, it always feels like they hired somebody who has time traveled from that time period, somebody who personally understands what makes that specific point in time or that specific genre extremely iconic, and I love that. So big ups to the producer for this one. Just fantastic work there. It might have been a little bit floaty and empty, but like, think about that in space context, right? Like, if you're talking about this as a general composition, it's simple. There's not a lot of layers, but that's exactly what space was. Expansive, unknown. It was showcasing that in the chord structure. It was showcasing that in the general composition. There wasn't a lot, there didn't need to be, but there was also something kind of vague about it too. That intensity was there, but it was because the unknown was still so unknown. So I love this theme. This is really well done. But I have obviously yapped about this enough, so thank you all so very much for watching. If you have another song you want me to get to from Reverse 1999, or if you want me to get to another one from that same comment I showed earlier, you can leave those in the comments as well, and I will do my best to get to those. Or if you just enjoyed this video and you want to follow me and support me for more stuff coming in the future, you know how to do all that, and I will see all of you in the next video. Goodbye!